Despite a couple of changes, the WWE King and Queen of the Ring tournaments are off to one hell of a hot start, primarily because of the men. Holy shit, what a couple of matches we had tonight to kick off the first round of the King of the Ring that will be culminating in Saudi Arabia in about 3 weeks. Ilya Dragonov and Ricochet had an all-timer tonight on Raw. Absolutely brutal match, but a really, really fun match. And we closed out with another good one between Sheamus, and Gunther, rematch from their storied rivalry from a couple of years ago. And they went a good 20 hard minutes. This was a really, really good episode of Monday Night Raw. I want to hear what you guys think of the show in the chat. Give me your grades, 1 through 10, A, B, C, or D. I thought tonight was solid. I mean, you had to have a tired roster who just flew from overseas. The show was in France on Saturday, and here they're back. Luckily, on the East Coast, they probably flew right into JFK and then drove right up to Hartford. So hopefully, most of the talent got sufficient enough rest before they went live tonight for Monday Night Raw. But I thought the matches on the show were excellent tonight. Of course, we had 8 total first-round matches announced at Backlash on Saturday that we're going to be kicking off tonight on Raw. SmackDown is going to have their bracket as well. And many people thought that all 8 of these matches, 4 men and 4 women, were all going to take place tonight on Monday Night Raw. And I was speculating on the Backlash review how that was going to work. They looked like they were advertising everything for Raw, but, oh, for crying out loud. Tito, hey, let me go wrangle my cat. Hold on one second. Hey. Oh, man. Do your cats like plastic bags? Mine love them. My God. Sorry about that. Lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking about Backlash during the review when they announced all of these matches. I was speculating that it's going to be hard and tight to fit all 8 of those matches into one TV episode. Then they're going to have to rush them or whatever. So I was kind of curious how that was going to work. But then I started assuming they were just going to be spread out over a couple of weeks. But then I was like, well, we don't have that much time. Saudi Arabia is in 3 weeks. So that's going to be the tournament finals. So I was thinking in my head, well, I guess they have to do all these matches on Raw, but they didn't. They took 2 matches, one from the men and one for the women, and they're bumping those to the live event. So we have Kofi Kingston and Rey Mysterio, and I forgot what the women's match is. Remind me in the chat. They're going to be bumped to a live event later on this week. So I don't really have a huge problem with that. A lot of fans were complaining, thought it was wrong. It's a hate crime against Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston. I love Rey. I love Kofi. 2 Hall of Famers, 2 former WWE champions, utmost respect for both. But I'm not going to be viewing this as some catastrophe, some travesty of, injustice that they were bumped from Monday Night Raw. This is a first round King of the Ring match. It does not matter. Yes, it's unfortunate we didn't get this one on TV, but it's not like Kofi Kingston or Rey Mysterio is really hurting for TV time here. There's certain battles I choose to pick, and there's certain battles I choose to leave alone. This was one that is not worth fighting. WWE, if they were to try to squeeze in all of these tournament matches tonight, they wouldn't have had time for anything else. Now, some fans are fine with that. Some fans would have been perfectly fine with that. I would have been too, but it's not really WWE's style. If they do all of the matches tonight, there's not going to be time for that Punk promo, which some fans might be fine with, but WWE isn't fine with it. And these are the type of things that they like to do on the show. And if they just had their 3-hour block of Raw, all wrestling matches and nothing else, maybe that would alienate a portion of their audience that wants to see a little bit more. So I don't know what, the decision process was for this. I think it's just because they don't have a lot of time until Saudi Arabia. That show is 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away. So they got to fast track these matches, but still give the matches enough time to be good. And I think doing it this way was kind of the only way to do it. Now, if Saudi Arabia if the King of the Ring finals were 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away, then you can stretch these out and give all of these matches TV time. But when Backlash ended, you only had a 3-week turnaround to do these matches, so they have to, I'd rather have them do it this way. Let me just say that. I'd rather have them do it this way than just try to rush them. You know what I mean? Because tonight with Dragonov and Ricochet, even with Jey Uso, and Finn Balor in the opener, and then Gunther and Sheamus in the main event, all of these matches were given a fair amount of time. And when we saw the brackets unveiled at Backlash on Saturday, we were all like, holy shit. You know, the King of the Ring has been such a joke in my mind for so many years. It's always been a tournament that they don't even need to do. And when they do it, they phone it in or they give the crown, you know, to, I love Xavier Woods, love him. But what's the point of giving him that, you know? So this year, it feels like it's getting back to the way it used to be. They're putting main eventers, they're putting former champions in this thing, and whoever wins it is going to actually use the King of the Ring as a stepping stone to a championship match like it used to be back in the day. At least that's the way it feels like it's being set up to me. And the minute Gunther declared for the King of the Ring, I'm like, yep, that's my guy. Now, granted, Dragonov's in this thing. We got a lot of matches and stars on the SmackDown side of things, but why? If I'm WWE, I'm not putting Gunther in this thing if he's not going to win it. If they don't plan for Gunther to win it, then I'm not putting him in it. I don't want him to take a loss to anybody else. Not after that run he just had that came to an end at WrestleMania. He needs to be on a winning streak and a big one. So the minute that he declared for the King of the Ring, I'm like, that's your winner right there. So I'm still picking Gunther all the way. But I like the fact that WWE is taking this King of the Ring seriously. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. Instead of freaking out, what does everybody like to say? You're virtue signaling. All of people getting mad that these matches got bumped. Just look at the circumstances. All you have to do is look at the reason why. Instead of flying off the rails that some talent got treated unfairly or something, just think about why they're doing this. They're not doing it to purposely fuck over Ray or Kofi or whoever the women's match is. Did one of y'all tell me what it was yet? None of y'all filled me in on that match yet? What's the women's one that got bumped? So anyway, it's not like they were purposely trying to screw over Ray and Kofi Kingston. They weren't. It's the fact that they only have 3 weeks to finish this tournament, and they still want to give you your Monday Night Raws that you're used to instead of dedicating the next 3 weeks of Raws and SmackDowns just to tournament matches and tournament matches only. That's not really what WWE does. AEW is kind of likely to do something like that. Just give us, you know, great match after great in-ring match after great in-ring match all in a row on their shows. They're more likely to do that than WWE. But WWE still wants to have the other elements that we're used to seeing on their show still on their show. So to me, WWE didn't do anything wrong here. I saw a lot of fans getting really mad and stuff. You just have to think about the circumstances. They didn't go out of their way to screw these talents. They did this because they didn't really have any other choice. So, you know, granted, you know, with having 3 pay-per-views in a matter of like 6 weeks between Backlash and Saudi Arabia and Clash of the Castle, granted, that's a lot. But creative can only do so much with that. And I think unless they would have started this tournament before Backlash, then you would have been doing it before the draft, and that would have been hard as well. So you didn't even have a solution going backwards. You couldn't even start it a few weeks earlier because there was still a lot of uncertainty with the draft, and you had a pay-per-view coming up, an international pay-per-view. And if you try to do a tournament while all that's going on, that's going to be hard to do as well. So this was really kind of the only way to do it if they wanted to do it. You know what I mean? So let's not fly off the rails and freak out about these matches that got bumped. Pick your battles. There are some battles totally worth fighting, and there are others that are not. This is one that's not. So I think if anybody out there was upset that a couple of matches got bumped from Raw to live events, get over yourself. Please, just get over yourself. And plus now, the live event crowd, wherever these matches are going to take place, there's actually going to be stakes at a house show match. That's not bad either. So I saw very, very little negative other than, you know, me as a fan saying, oh, I'm kind of bummed that Kofi and Ray didn't get to be on TV. But you know what? I'll survive. I'll live. I would have liked to see Ray and Kofi, but you know what? The fact that I'm not being able to see it, I will pick up the pieces of my shattered life and I will move on. Somehow I will find the strength and bravery to move on. I will. You guys are here to support me. I know you guys will support me through this journey of recovery, of not being able to witness Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston on TV, when I can probably find plenty of other matches between those two guys out there on the interwebs. So not a big deal, at least to Greg. If it's a big deal to other people out there, fine. It's just not to me. I still thought tonight's matches were great. I feel very good about the King of the Ring this year because, like I said, I haven't given a shit about the King of the Ring since 1996. That's the truth. I mean, it really is. I mean, I might have perked up a little bit in 2001 when Edge won, 2002 when Brock won. Oh, that's kind of interesting, you know, but I didn't really give a shit about it since the mid 90s. I mean, Brett and Owen were fantastic. Mabel can go suck a butt, but Austin's victory in 96 was the last memorable one. I didn't care about Triple H's in 97. I didn't care about Shamrock's in 98. I didn't care about Billy Gunn's in 1999, and I was at the front row ringside for that show. So, or fourth row ringside for that event. Didn't care about Billy Gunn's win either. So there's only been a handful of King of the Rings that I've even given a shit about at all. You know, back in the day, back in the 80s, they used to release these King of the Rings on those VHS tapes. I got a couple of them back there. The one that Don Morocco won and Junkyard Dog, I think, won another. And they had some other winners and stuff. But for the most part, me as a fan have not given much of a shit about the King of the Ring. So I actually am appreciative that Triple H is putting main event level and caliber talent in this thing to where we can have a real bona fide main event winner. And you're not just giving the King of the Ring accolade to a star that needs a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like they did with Baron Corbin, and unfortunately, like they did with Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods was politicking for it. It was his dream to be the King of the Ring winner, so I'm glad they gave it to him. But it didn't mean anything for his career, you know, other than the fact that he ran around with a cape and a fucking crown on for a few months. Other than that, what's the point? So I feel like this is a much better way to do it, and I was pretty impressed with what we saw. And like I said, despite some hiccups, it was supposed to be Drew McIntyre facing Finn Balor, and he was not medically cleared, so they replaced him with Jay. And then on the women's side of things, Asuka. Oh, it's Dakota. It's Dakota's match. That's right. Asuka, right, is being replaced by Dakota Kai. Or did that match happen too? Shit. Or, let me look at my notes. I forgot. It was Zoe and Ivy. Did that match happen? Oh, yeah, Lyra. Yeah, that's right. Dakota did wrestle. She lost to Lyra Valkyria. Am I saying that right yet? I don't know if I will ever say it right, guys. I'm not sure. So, have you guys given me an answer on that women's match yet? Thank you, Zach. Shayna versus Zelina. I couldn't remember what the other match was. Shayna Baszler, Zelina Vega, and Kofi and Ray will be on a live event sometime this week, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday or this weekend. Don't know. But that's coming up. Thank you for that. And despite the hiccups, I still thought, at least with the men, you guys can give me your opinions on the women's matches. They didn't really stand out that much tonight, but I still like the women's brackets. There's still some good looking matches in there, and I think that tournament can pick up steam maybe at the end. But the men were off to a hell of a start tonight with 3 really, really fun matches in the tournament. So we'll be breaking all that down in a minute. Before we do, let me go to the chat and say hello to everybody and welcome you to the channel and to our Monday Night Raw review. This is your WWE Raw review for May 6th, 2024. We also had some news today, by the way. I released a quick little video this afternoon ahead of Monday Night Raw when we got the news that Jerry the King Lawler has not been released, but is not with WWE anymore. His broadcasting contract was not renewed. He still retains his Legends deal, but in terms of being a contracted talent, Lawler is gone from the company. And this was broken by PW Insider Mike Johnson today. I did read a Fightful Select article on this that followed up a little bit because some fans, upon hearing this news, thought that maybe he could go to AEW and reunite with Jim Ross, but that wasn't going to be possible with his Legends deal anyway. Also, Lawler doesn't really watch wrestling anymore and hasn't even really looked at the product and doesn't know much about AEW. And that was never going to be reality to me. I couldn't believe how many people were saying, oh, they should bring him in. No, they shouldn't. I don't need to hear Lawler and Ross together in another company. No, I have no use or need or desire for that as a wrestling fan at all. And apparently that's not even an option anyway, so it doesn't matter. And this Jerry Lawler, this is the first time in his life, in his whole career, that he's gone longer than a year without wrestling a match, and he probably is not going to be wrestling anymore. He has had a stroke about a year ago. Of course, he had that heart attack on air back in 2012, where he died on TV and they brought him back to life. So his health is probably going to prevent him from doing that. But we did come up here today and talk a little bit about the Lawler stuff. If you want to catch that video, it's 10 minutes long. You can check it out. It's one of those new short form videos that I'm starting to post from time to time on the channel. And also yesterday, since we weren't here to do a classic pay-per-view watch-along like we normally are on Sundays, I released a review of my favorite episode of Saturday night's main event of all time, October 3rd, 1987, the day that the Mega Powers formed for the first time. So if you want to check out my review on that, it's also on the channel. Please check it out. It's about 40 minutes long, and it's a lot of fun, and it has a very close personal connection to me and my life as a wrestling fan, this particular show, and I thought that would be a fun replacement video to give you guys yesterday since we weren't here for the watch along. But we should be here this Sunday, even though it's Mother's Day. I'm going to be busy as shit at work. I should be home in time to bust out a watch along with you guys. So I will post a link to that once I figure out what that show is going to be. So there's a little programming note for you. And now I will cruise to Mr. Chat and say hello to everybody. By the way, if you could do me a favor and smash Mr. Thumbs Up button for me, and please subscribe if you are not yet already. Super Chats are open as well as memberships. So feel free to ask me questions in the chat like Joshua Aparicio has. Thank you for the $2, my friend. Do I now believe in Joe Hendry? I'm getting there. You know, it's a process. It's a process, Joshua. Of course, for those of you who don't know, this weekend during the Backlash review, I made the very, very painful personal confession that I had very, very disappointing and despicable behavior when I have somehow, for some reason, chosen not to yet listen to the Joe Hendry song. But a lot of you came to my support this weekend and offered your support and showed me your support. And many of you dropped a link to that song for me on social media, which I have now checked out. But I've only listened to it once, and it's great, don't get me wrong. But I still don't feel like I quite deserve to be able to say I believe in him quite yet, because I think listening to the song once, you know, that's not enough. You know, you need to listen to it a lot, several times in a row. I need to become addicted to it to where it's stuck in my head forever. Only then can I truly believe in Joe Hendry. So I'm getting there. I'm working on it, but it's hard to try to get yourself addicted to something, you know? So I'm working on it. I'm working hard to be addicted. I promise. But thank you, Joshua. I have been working on my Joe Hendry issue, and I'm getting close to officially believing in him. Good to see channel members like Zach Palgett, JJ Legg, Victor Cologne's in here. So is Big J. 7th season is in the house as well. Danny Downbad is here, and so is the Juliet. Hitting all these channel members first. Joshua, good to see you. Good to see Daniel and Barry MK and Zach. Right on. We also have Kevin Plays. We got Tony. We got Vash Starwind, Shell Shock 29. We have Rob Strickland. One day, someday in the future, I would like to see a Dark Side of the Ring episode profiling Ric Flair. We kind of already got that, didn't we? We've had enough. We've had a lot of information, shall we say, on Ric Flair. I think that Plane Ride from Hell episode kind of operated as a kind of like a low-key Ric Flair Dark Side. We also have Straight Edge Mondo and Chad Jones in the house. Good to see you. David Brown is here. Sex Machine is here. So is Ronnie Matthews, along with Gotcha Carnival 17. Right on. Good to see you as well. I got to hit these super chats now. Good to see Matthias in here. Jake the Aerial Assassin, Doug Unfunny in the house, Jay Lambo, and Ram K are all here. Now let's hit some of these supers, or hit some more supers. Zach, my boy, good to see you. Thanks for the $5. See you in Vegas, brother. I'm picking up Gunther versus LA Knight in the finals. Yeah, that could be a good one. Gunther and LA Knight. I don't even think I've seen the SmackDown brackets, to be honest. I haven't. I should look those up and educate myself. But yeah, Vegas is very exciting. We did talk about that on Saturday as well in the Backlash review. WWE did, as expected, officially announce WrestleMania 41 for Las Vegas. That thrilled me because I'm going to be there, and I hope to see all of you guys there too. Happy I'm going to get to 2 WrestleManias in 3 years. I went to WrestleMania 39 last year in LA, and we will definitely be making the trip to Las Vegas next year for 41. I can't wait, but we had a feeling that was going to be the case when they didn't announce it in Minnesota like we thought. Minnesota was the front runner for about a year. The city of Minnesota, the officials in the city even teased that they were about to announce it. And I don't know if WWE pulled the rug out from under them or what the story we're going to hear is. But my speculation is that since The Rock is back and was a big part of WrestleMania 40, he's also going to be a big part of WrestleMania 41 because they have already planted those seeds. And if The Rock is going to be involved in the main event of either night of WrestleMania, especially night 2, I already kind of have a feeling it's going to be Rock and Roman on night 2. It just feels like that's what they're going to do. And if that's what they do, and even if it's something like The Rock's last match, like what if this is The Rock's last match, or he advertises it as that, that just doesn't feel like a match made for Minnesota, to be honest. That feels like a match for the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. That feels like the market that a match like that should happen in. So what I'm hoping is that Minneapolis gets WrestleMania 42 and we party our balls off next year at 41 in Vegas. It's going to be fun. I haven't booked my hotel yet, though, Zach. I will be getting on that because I want to figure out where we're going to stay exactly, how close to everything we want to be. I'm curious where WrestleCon is going to be located. I might wait and see if they announce where theirs is going to be and maybe wait and pick the hotel then. I'm not sure. I'm really hoping they do something at the Sphere. I mean, if we can get the Hall of Fame up in there or something like that, that would be crazy. I don't think we are. I think everything's going to take place at T-Mobile across the street from Allegiant Stadium. But if they can do something in that sphere, that would be awesome. And that's going to be my first time seeing the Sphere. I've not seen it yet because it wasn't built last time I was in Vegas. Zach, we're going to be throwing down some cold ones. You get ready. Juliet, thank you for the 5, girl. We'll get to your Jerry Lawler reaction video later. No, do it now. What's this later shit? What do you mean later? Pause me. Go over and click on it right now and watch it. It's about 11 minutes long. I'll set my timer and we'll wait 11 minutes for you. And go. Don't worry, guys. It won't take long. It's just 11 minutes. We'll wait for Juliet to tell us she's done. Okay, I'm kidding. You guys are. I'm not going to torture you. Greg, you fucking crazy. Just kidding. Juliet, thanks for the $5. We'll get to your Lawler reaction video. Was surprised he was under a broadcast contract. I thought he transitioned to a Legends deal. Me too. That's actually what I said in the video. I was surprised he even had a broadcast contract. I guess that's why they were bringing him in occasionally for those kickoff panels. If we're paying him, might as well get use out of him, but there's no use for him now. So a Legends deal is all I've always thought he's had. So I guess we're just now doing with Lawler what I already thought they were doing with him. So in the end, no harm done. And I did mention that it's kind of like a non-story and a story all at the same time. I mean, on one hand, a 32-year relationship is coming to an end, but on the other hand, it's kind of not because he's still there with a Legends deal. So I didn't know how big the story was, but the video is up and I gave my initial thoughts on that this afternoon. Good to see Daniel Malcolm here as well. Thank you so much, dude, for the $5. Good mic work. Iron Chic class. Thank you so much, my friend. Always happy to see you up in here. And there's Barry, my Hawaiian friend, who I'm going to be seeing, in just a couple of months, Barry, when I come out to Kauai. Sandman is about to be added to WWE 2K24. I just saw he's got a new WWE toy coming out. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. I'm calling it. Wow. Sandman in the Hall of Fame. We watched The Dark Side of the Ring on Sandman last week. It was one of the more boring episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, to be honest with you, because his story is so typical. You know, I mean, it wasn't even that gnarly. It wasn't even that crazy. At least in terms of the crazy wrestlers of the 80s and 90s, you know, Sandman, his persona was nuts. He looked like a fucking crackhead. He had drug problems like they all did. But, you know, his family life was pretty typical, had some issues, troubled family life a little bit, but he wasn't too crazy. This guy, he never beat his kids and wife or anything. He got arrested a couple times, had some drug issues, but his story was so unbelievably typical for that time period. He actually seemed like one of the better ones, you know? Like I never knew much about Sandman's career because I didn't really care for him much, to be honest. I didn't dislike Sandman. I thought he was perfect for the ECW audience in the ECW environment and those style of matches and that style of entertainment. The Sandman was a bona fide star over there, but I never really viewed him as someone who had real credibility in a wrestling ring, you know? He was just a great character that fit in perfectly with that adult, extreme, violent audience that ECW catered to back in those days. He was tailor-made for that, and his entrances with Metallica's Enter Sandman playing and smashing the beer on his face was awesome. It was awesome, but overall, I never gave a shit about him. He annoyed the hell out of me at that one night stand. Give me a beer. I need a beer. And Austin's like, get the fuck away from me. So Sandman has had his moments and stuff, and he found work in all three promotions, ECW, WCW, and even WWE, but he was just never anybody that I really cared much about. I remember the the storyline with his son and Raven and ECW, that was all great. I loved the crucifixion. I wasn't in the least bit offended by that whatsoever. So I liked all of that stuff. I thought it was great for the time, but didn't care much for Sandman and never really knew much about his life. So when we learned about his life in Dark Side of the Ring, it was actually a lot less crazy than I thought. It was just like your typical crazy, you know? Like they're all crazy like that. Every damn one of them, of those wrestlers back in those days, had some sort of issue at home, sometimes really bad and really violent and really ugly and really kind of gross. And then other times just, you know, typical fucking family problems and stuff. And I think Sandman's issues were just pretty norm for that time. And it was one of the more just unremarkable episodes, I guess, of Dark Side of the Ring. It was like kind of good, but it wasn't like mind blowing or super intriguing or interesting or anything like that. Just typical. But Barry has got Sandman going into the Hall of Fame real soon, maybe even next year. We will see. Kevin Plays, good to see you, man. Thank you for the $5. I heard reports that the winners of the tournaments get a title opportunity of their choosing. Can anyone confirm or deny? I don't know about that, Kevin. We'll see what the chat says. I would not do it that way. They've never really, because you're already given a championship shot to the Rumble winner. The Money in the Bank winner gets a championship shot. They get to choose any champion. So now you're adding a third way. I don't know if I agree with that or not. I mean, I kind of do, because that ups the stakes a little bit. And you know WWE's not going to just do this tournament every year to phone it in, to put it on a Baron Corbin or Xavier. They're actually going to, you know, make this tournament a thing again. If that's the plan, then yeah, you should give a title shot to whoever wins. If you let them pick any champion, I don't know. I have not heard that this is the deal, so the chat can confirm or deny that for you. But hypothetically, if it's true, I think maybe I'd prefer that the title shot stays on brand, but I don't know why I would prefer that. What do I care? Go to the other show. Challenge that champion. Who fucking cares? So if that's what they're doing, Kevin, I think I'm cool with it. Now that I've ran it through my head, I think I'm cool with it. Jake, Aerial Assassin, good to see you, man. We got Joshua with two more for us. My mommy missing out on Mother's Day is unreal. I know. Well, it's not Mother's Day yet, and maybe mommy can have a good one this Sunday. I'm going to be hoping that her and Dom go out for a nice chicken tender dinner. I hope so. I'm ready for mommy to come back. Do you guys think Liv is going to beat Becky at the pay-per-view? Do you think that's happening? It might. I've been saying all along, though, I feel like if Liv was going to win the title, she should have just won the Battle Royal. So I don't know if she's going to beat Becky or not. Reese Jones is with us. Good to see you, man. Appreciate that super chat. Gunther is the king of the ring, and I feel like the queen of the ring is made for either Tiffany or Chelsea Green. Tiffany seems very likely to me. Is she on this? Is she in the bracket? I haven't seen the SmackDowners. I haven't seen the other bracket yet. I guess I should look at that before doing a fucking live stream, huh? But I haven't seen the SmackDown side of it. Tiffany would be an excellent choice. But look at Raw. I mean, you got Io Sky. I was really hoping for an Io and Asuka match, but Asuka, of course, got knocked out. I would probably give it to Io Sky or Tiffany Stratton. That might be a hell of a final. Tiffany and Io Sky. I think that would be a fun final. Chelsea Green would be great if the King of the Ring was like a couple of years ago, like when they gave it to Xavier, then just give it to Chelsea. Who fucking cares? Like they gave it to, didn't they give it to Zelina, right? She was Queen Zelina, right? She must have won the tournament unless she just called herself the Queen for no reason. If it was one of those style King of the Rings, then yes, Chelsea Green. But Chelsea Green gets squashed by everybody. She's more gimmick than she is a force in the ring. So Chelsea would not be my pick for this particular tournament. If it was 2 years ago, hell yeah, Chelsea all the way. But it ain't 2 years ago. It's this year, and I wouldn't have her win. Oh, they haven't released this. Okay, thank you, Juliet. They haven't released the SmackDown bracket. Okay, so I haven't not done my homework. I'm actually up to date. But if Tiffany is in that, yeah, I'd send her to the finals because she's not going to be beating Becky right now. I'm sorry, Bayley right now. Bayley's going to have a little bit of a run before anything happens over there. So giving Tiffany another accolade. You got Bianca and Jade who've got those tags, so they're taken care of. So this would be something when you look at the rest of the field on SmackDown, the roster anyway, with the women on that side of the bracket. If Tiffany assumingly is in this, she's who I'd put over. Hell yeah, for sure. I'm glad to see former NXT talent Lyra defeating the Saraya of Damage Control, Dakota Kai. Yeah, that's a shame about Asuka, but Dakota did take her place and got beat. Poor Dakota. I love Dakota, but she really feels like she's more of the mouthpiece of that group than anything else these days, because every time she gets in the ring, she gets beat. So we should start talking about Raw. We haven't even gotten into it yet. You guys were all giving it good grades that I saw earlier. We have B pluses and A.9s and 3.5 out of 5 stars. B plus. Not sure if I saw an A in there, but we were, for the most part, all of us giving the show tonight high marks. I thought it was very good. The show opened up with, what did it open up with? Oh yeah, the Judgment Day promo. Now this is funny. Now I said in the Backlash review, after Damian Priest was visibly upset with his Judgment Day crew for helping him out in the match, I said, oh God, what they're going to do on Raw is cut back to their little clubhouse scene backstage in between matches, and Priest is going to show up and scold the two of them for what they did, and it was going to be kind of dumb. Like, you guys couldn't hash this shit out on the plane or text message each other or talk about it in the car today. It has to be backstage with the cameras rolling. But instead, they come out to the ring. It's Priest with the championship. He looks great as champion. I think he's going to have a short run, so I want to enjoy Priest as champion while we can, because I think he makes a great looking one. He was there with Finn Balor, of course, big ass headed JD McDonough, and Dirty Sanchez, Dominic Mysterio, who's rocking that stash now. He looks great. I love me some Dom. He's got his arm in a sling. And they come to the ring, and Priest right off the bat wants to address what went down at Backlash after the match. Now, I had thought that he was going to get pissed and scold all these guys because they started, after they helped Priest win, when Priest is celebrating his victory, they start putting the boots to Jey Uso. And Priest turns around, he's like, no, and he kind of pushes them away. And ultimately still celebrates with them, but stopped them from putting the boots to Jey and harming Jey any further. And I've been wondering, if we might see kind of like a slow babyface turn here coming with Damian Priest in the future, and if they might start planting the seeds for that, because I still think they got to figure out a way, provided he's healthy, to put Drew McIntyre in the main event of Clash of the Castle. And if, Drew goes into that match against Priest and wins, that would be a perfect way to take him into SummerSlam against CM Punk. So I'm wondering if maybe they're starting to plant the seeds for Priest to go more in a babyface direction, and I thought that's what they were going to start doing here. But as in a surprising move, Priest actually apologizes and thanks Judgment Day for helping him out. He said he handled things wrong and he feels bad about that. You guys helped me retain the title, and I treated you poorly, and I apologize, and I thank you guys for helping me. And Judgment Day now seems to be all back on the same page. He even looked right at JD McDonough, who he's had a really tough time accepting over the past few months, and said, I appreciate you. Thank you for what you did, and I'm sorry for being a dick. So they're kind of back on the same page right now. Finn Balor, of course, is happy as can be, because prior to Raw, it was announced on social media, excuse me, that Drew McIntyre was not medically cleared to compete in the tournament, so he needed to be pulled. So, of course, Balor thinks he's getting a bye. He thinks he's getting a bye in the tournament. I am going right on to the second round, and he instructs Samantha Irving to announce him as the winner, and you knew that Pierce was going to come out, and of course he did. Adam Pierce comes out and announces that Balor does not have a bye. He will still be wrestling in the first round. That match is up next against main event Jey Uso. So Jey Uso, who got screwed at Backlash in that match against Damian Priest, now gets the match with Finn Balor instead. We go to commercial, come back, and it's Jey and Balor. We did have a Drew McIntyre sighting. He came out to ringside during this match. He did not get physical, and I was curious too. I'm like, if he gets physical, that means that the doctor's not clearing him as a work. That means it's kayfabe. So I was wondering, did they pull him from the tournament because they don't want him to win the tournament? So why have him in there? Why beat him, if he's not going to win? I thought maybe they just pulled him and made the injury up. But it sounds like the injury is legit, unless they had some discussions today, during the day in creative meetings, and then they said, hey, wait a minute, let's get McIntyre out of there, and they just made some injury for him. But I think it's legit from what we understand. So Jey Uso faces Balor instead. And even though Drew came out there, he didn't really get involved in any way. He was just there as a presence. And Jey Uso wound up hitting a spear and beat Finn Balor to advance. We had a feeling there was no way Jey was going to lose and then lose again. So this was a great way, actually, to bounce Jey Uso right back after that loss at Backlash. And it was a pretty good match on top of it. This match was so good, but it was probably the third best of the 3 men's tournament matches that we got tonight. And that's saying something. That's saying something about the quality of the in-ring work that we've been getting lately in WWE. It's really been top fucking notch, man. And this match was good. Happy to see Jey Uso advance. That dude is over as all hell. That entrance at Backlash was one of the damnedest things I have ever seen. It was up there with the Bad Bunny one from last year in Puerto Rico, but Jey Uso doing that thing in France and all those fans and the phones and oh my God. Oh my God. So this one was good. Jey Uso advances. So right after this match, Drew McIntyre, of course, is out there. Drew McIntyre apparently leaves the building. The very next segment is a CM Punk promo. Punk was goofing off at WWE headquarters over the weekend while all the talent was in France. He's walking around. He got locked in a bathroom. He got lost in there, couldn't find his way out. It was pretty funny. It kind of, have you ever seen like the movie The Fugitive, and they chase Harrison Ford down in the tunnels and then he jumps off the dam, and then Tommy Lee Jones and all those guys, the cops, they can't find their way. How the fuck do you get out of here? And they're going up and down stairs. It was kind of like that. So he was messing around with the headquarters and said, hey, you know, Raw is in Hartford. I'm in Stamford. I think I'll go down and hang out with some cool people. So he did. He comes out. I got to say, he looks really good. Pat McAfee mentioned, you know, the arm looks good. The body looks good. He seems to be healing up nicely. He's not wearing the brace anymore. So I would really like to know, like, where we sit with CM Punk's recovery. I'm sure it's something they don't want to rush. CM Punk has been incredibly injury prone over the last 2.5 years. So I, for one, am going to be holding my breath every time he gets in the ring. I mean, he came back at Survivor Series, got in the ring at the Royal Rumble, and that's all we've seen him in the ring. You know, he's only been in the ring wrestling since his return to WWE for like a sandwich, man. So when he does come back, I just hope that he doesn't break the other elbow or he doesn't twist the other knee or something like that. I'm super concerned about that. So if I'm WWE and I'm CM Punk, I'm just taking my time with the injury, make sure it's healed up, ready to go. But in terms of being physically ready to the naked eye, he looks great and he looks ready to go to me. So he came out there to troll Drew McIntyre some more, talked about his escapades at the headquarters over the weekend. And he wanted to be here in Hartford with these great people. Now, Hartford, this arena, has been there a long time. It's really easy to recognize for me as a fan. This was the site of WrestleMania 11, probably the worst WrestleMania of all time. And you can always tell with Hartford, they got those little lights in the middle of their staircases with the blue railings, and it's just a very easy building to spot. I know, you know, Madison Square Garden is like that. In that review I dropped yesterday, Hershey Park Arena is like that. The old Igloo in Pittsburgh, the site of Hell in a Cell, Mankind's Big Bump, which I don't think that building is around anymore. That one was always really recognizable to me. The Crown Coliseum in Fayetteville, the Greensboro Coliseum, Staples Center, of course, all just very easy to spot. Oh, and the Garden back in the day, the Boston Garden and Rosemont Horizon with that old Coca-Cola sign. Those were always really easy arenas to recognize when WWE would hit the towns. And also the buildings in Richmond and the Norfolk Scope both just had like a look to them. And so I always recognize those buildings throughout the years, but a lot of them, you know, maybe aren't around anymore. But the Hartford Civic Center is still hanging in there, site of the old Hartford Whalers. And Punk made a Gordie Howe reference, you know, and said, in the same place where Gordie Howe skated on the ice. I can't believe he mentioned Gordie Howe when he should have mentioned Jonathan Taylor Thomas in the very same ring that Jonathan Taylor Thomas stepped foot in at WrestleMania 11. That would have popped me as a fan. But Drew McIntyre, of course, had literally just left the building. So Punk is like, Drew just left, and we know Drew. He's not on the phone with his wife or anything. He's not texting his wife or his family. He's scrolling on Twitter right now. So he instructs all of the fans in the audience to start tweeting him. Tweet at Drew McIntyre right now. Take a picture of me in the ring and send it to him. And tell him to turn the car around and come back. And he just went on to talk some more shit while he waited for McIntyre to come back, just ran him down the whole time and buried him. And he said the next time he sees him, he's going to break his face. And he tried to wait for McIntyre, but McIntyre never showed up. And then music played and Punk leaves. So what do you think the next step here is with these two guys? In the beginning of this feud, up until WrestleMania, it was all Drew. It was Drew. Punk got hurt. Drew trolled him. The endless Instagram videos driving by the muffin place, getting the merch made, the peace sign over the gravesite, all that shit that he was doing was wonderful. And then it was Punk's turn. Then WrestleMania comes. Then McIntyre wins the title. And you knew this had to come to a head. We were watching it together after all of that trolling. Now he's going to sit there on the announce booth, on the table, and taunt and stand over Punk and shove that belt in his face, and Punk's not going to do anything about it. So that was the tipping point right there. That was the day that it all changed. And Punk, of course, then attacks Drew. He loses the title. And since then, it's been all CM Punk. It's been Punk, getting in all the laughs, getting in all the trolls, and frustrating the fuck out of Drew McIntyre. And it's been great. But at some point, the tables are going to have to turn again. So I'm curious. There's so much of this stuff we don't know because we don't know the injury status of both guys now. Before, it was just Punk was hurt. Now they're both hurt. So I don't know at some point if they're going to keep doing this, having Punk pushing McIntyre's buttons until they can do an attack angle with the two of them where McIntyre really beats him down in the ring or something like that. Or does McIntyre get a title shot at Clash at the Castle against against Priest, and win it there? If the King of the Ring is going to get a title shot, perhaps at Clash at the Castle, then that's going to be Cody and Gunther maybe if they can choose either champion. So I don't know how that's going to work, if that was WWE's initial intent. But if there's a way to get McIntyre a title shot at Clash at the Castle, I don't know how you don't do that. I don't know how you don't put McIntyre in a title match. You know what I mean? How do you not do that at Clash at the Castle? How do you hold that show and not put him in a title match? So can we agree that he's probably at least going to be booked for one? And it's probably going to have to be against Priest. What else are they going to do? The only thing I can think of, and I think this would be crazy, but it would still probably be pretty good, they could just do the Punk match there. They'd have to both be healthy for that. That match is that show is a month away, a little bit over a month away. So if they're both healthy enough and they're cleared, you could just do Drew and Punk at the Clash at the Castle show. But would that even main event? You're probably going to have 1 or 2 minimum title matches, probably a women's title match too somewhere on there. So Punk and Drew, I think that feels more of a SummerSlam match to me than Clash at the Castle. So I would put the belt on McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, and then that's going to give you, 2 months of build to get to SummerSlam, right? It's going to be a lot of build. There's going to be a pay-per-view in between there too somewhere, right, for WWE. So that's a lot of McIntyre and Punk you got to do. What is the July pay-per-view anyway? Oh, it's Money in the Bank. It's Money in the Bank. Oh, it's Money in the Bank. Oh. I like the idea of Kevin Owens winning the Money in the Bank, but could you imagine Punk winning it again? And think about this. If WWE has a plan for, number one, McIntyre to win the title at Clash at the Castle, and then to do Drew and Punk at SummerSlam, it's going to be hard to justify Punk getting a title shot against Drew unless they do a number one contenders thing. There's a triple threat match and then another triple threat match, and the winner of the 2 triple threat matches will wrestle, and the winner of that gets the title shot. If they do something like that, then you can get the title shot to Punk. But you could also do it by him cashing in the Money in the Bank. But if Punk got the briefcase, I would want him to cash in unannounced, not booking it for SummerSlam. So you could factor him into the Money in the Bank as well, but I don't think you need to. I think you could probably find a way to make a CM Punk title match at SummerSlam make sense. WWE does a lot of number one contender matches. Both companies do this, and it kind of gives them a reason to give the title shots to just anybody, even if they haven't strung up a lot of wins this year. And Punk has barely wrestled at all, and he's got no one-on-one matches. So in order for him to get a title shot, he's going to have to win some other match instead, and maybe that's what they do. at Money in the Bank. You know, maybe Punk's not in Money in the Bank match itself, but maybe he does have a match against two other guys, and the winner gets a shot against McIntyre at the pay-per-view. I don't know how they do it. I don't really know how they do it, but you feel like at this point, since both guys are still kind of injured, that SummerSlam has got to be the likely destination for that, right? You would think. So let me know if you think if I'm on the right track there, or if they have different plans for Punk and Drew. But with Clash at the Castle coming up, and provided he's healthy, I don't know what your excuse would be to not give McIntyre a title match, you know? Let me scroll down. Oh, I believe in Joe Hendry. Me too. I'm trying. Yeah, if Punk won the Money in the Bank, he would be the only 3-time winner, right? Jordan has a good point. Don't put that injury-prone man in a ladder match. Excellent point. We might want to keep the crazy shit away from Punk, but at some point he's going to have to do some crazy stuff. I think about that match he had with Brock in 2013. That was so good. I would like to think that a Punk and McIntyre match at SummerSlam could be similar to what Brock and Punk was at SummerSlam. And honestly, I think McIntyre might have to beat him when that match happens. You know? You could have Punk win the briefcase and then also become #1 contender, and then face McIntyre, lose to him, and then cash in and beat him right after. You could do something like that if you really wanted to get nuts. It's possible. Let me answer this quick super from Gotcha Carnival 17. Thanks, dude. Appreciate the 5. With Vegas hosting Mania next year, I feel like 42 will be in Minnesota and 43 in Nashville, unless London gets 42. What do you think? We talked about this a lot. Nick Khan mentioned that he does not feel like WrestleMania is leaving the U.S., the continental U.S. or Canada, in the near future. So I feel like London, at least for right now, is out. But Triple H did have that interesting tweet a few days ago that might put them back in the running. I feel like London is not a possibility, at least in the next 3 WrestleManias. That's my personal feeling. So 42 absolutely needs to be in Minnesota. 43 in Nashville, I have no problem with that. SummerSlam was there. It's a great town. But again, you're dealing with an outdoor stadium. So I might start thinking about, going back, keeping it indoors for a while, to the Superdome in New Orleans or something like that. I'm not sure where 43 would be, where a good spot is. Same part of the country to do an outdoor show. I would love it if Charlotte got a WrestleMania. Charlotte, another great wrestling town that I think Bank of America Stadium or whatever the place is called that the Panthers play in would be doable, especially in late April. You'd have the fear of rain perhaps, but you shouldn't have any frigid temperatures that time of year. Things should start warming up, and it should be pretty pleasant around that time of the year. So I would love for Charlotte to get it before Nashville, but Nashville I could understand because of just the market that it is. But for Minnesota, because I feel bad for them, I do hope they get 42 and they make up with it next year, since they kind of got screwed this year, but that's life. Anyway, back to Raw. Next match was the Women's King of the Ring tournament first rounder between Io Sky and Natalya. Not a surprise here. Io Sky got the win. I think Io is going to make it to the finals. I was hoping for an Io Sky and Asuka semifinal match, but Asuka, of course, got knocked out. And then Dakota would lose later, so no Damage Control versus Damage Control match is going to happen in this tournament. After Io Sky beat Natalya, Dakota came in the ring, got on the mic, and said that Asuka was injured, and she will be replacing her later on in her match with Laya Valkyria. And I'm trying to think with Asuka, I didn't hear anything about her injury in terms of the severity of it. So if there's any news you guys know about, feel free to drop it in the chat there. I'm hoping that whatever's going on with her isn't too bad. Although there's a part of me, I could be way wrong, but there is a part of me that feels like WWE just kind of rethought some of the matches, and these are some of the reasons they're using. Maybe these injuries are kayfabe, maybe they're not, but we've seen WWE do this before where they've announced matches way ahead of time. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, fuck, we shouldn't have done that. We need to do this instead, and then they have to fix it. So maybe that's a part of this. I hope it is, and that means Asuka might not really be injured. But we will see what the interwebs say this week. And then we got our second men's first round match of the night. Ricochet taking on Ilya Dragunov, making his Monday Night Raw debut since being drafted. I think he might have made an appearance on Raw in the past, but this is his first match since being drafted. And this was crazy. I mean, Dragunov, we already know, he's super crazy intense. They released and played this awesome video package, you know, kind of highlighting some of his moments and highlighting his vibe and demeanor and what style of a wrestler he is. He is super ultra crazy intense, and he's always been fun to watch. And he's going to be, I've always been waiting for that next like Benoit, you know, and like he is just tremendous. And this match was so fucking great. Ricochet, of course, is your speed champion right now. And I wasn't expecting him to win this, and I wasn't expecting a bad match by any means, but this really exceeded my expectations. They were all over the place. The crowd was eating this up, and Hartford does kind of have a reputation for being kind of like a more subdued audience. They're right up there with Corpus Christi, man. Just seems like they never make any noise, and Hartford was alive for this one. You'd think WWE territory would be a little bit more energetic, but I never remember the Hartford crowds being particularly lively. So they had a lot to live up to, since the talent was just coming back from France, where they were breaking decibel records and shit in that arena. So Ricochet and Dragunov took us all on a hell of a ride, man. This was so amazing. It looked like that superplex spot he had already gone for. I mean, after we just haven't, I didn't write down spot for spot here. Just go watch the match. It's terrific. We had inside of the ring, outside of the ring stuff, Ricochet doing his shit. They were all over the place. And the end, you always see, you tend to see Dragunov, you know, kind of get his face busted up real hard. And they had just a super gnarly superplex spot from the top where Dragunov superplexes Ricochet from the top, but he kind of like over-rotated and he came down on the back of his head. And people say he does this spot a lot. And when he popped up, he kind of had like a bloody forehead. And I'm like, did he come down on his, did he smash his face somehow on a superplex spot by over-rotating? And he came up and you could see the blood just trickling, and he was super intense. Now, he had already hit one H-bomb that Ricochet kicked out of, and that was super vicious. And he might have busted his head there. But then right after that, they went into that superplex spot, and he comes up kind of bloody, and then he blasts Ricochet with just another, just insane H-bomb, just crazy. I mean, this is some MMA shit he just pounded him with, and finally got the win and advanced, and the two of them had a little show of respect after the match. It was really good. I think the fans appreciated it. I appreciated it. This is what the King of the Ring should be all about. And this is what I'm glad they've brought back to the King of the Ring. This level of action and matches and competition was just incredible. This is exactly what I was hoping we would get when they announced the King of the Ring is returning. I'm like, well, maybe under Triple H, we won't get a pile of shit this year. And we definitely have not, because that match right there alone lives up and, you know, makes this tournament, is going to make this tournament memorable and meaningful. The fact that these two guys just tore it up in the first round says a lot about the tournament and how prestigious the talent is taking it. So the match was great. I could go back and watch it again. The crowd was into it. This is awesome is everywhere. And they were super energetic and enthusiastic for the match, which is great because those guys deserved it. They certainly did not deserve to be out there wrestling in front of a dead crowd. They were shown appreciation. It was a hell of a match. So Dragunov got the win there in a just really, really brutal encounter. And I'm guessing we're going to get what? Dragunov and Gunther in the semis? Is that what we're going to get? That match isn't next, right? I haven't seen the brackets. I don't think Gunther and Dragunov face each other next, although they might. Let me know in the chat. But that is probably, I guess, going to be a semifinal match that I guess we're going to get 2 weeks from tonight, probably, right? Next week, we'll get the second round or the quarterfinals. And then the following week, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll get the semifinal match, the Raw bracket final. That will probably be Gunther. Think about that. 2 weeks from tonight, we're probably going to get a Gunther and Ilya Dragunov Raw main event. Do I have that right? I think I might. Wish I would have seen that bracket. But think about that main event we're likely going to get in 2 weeks. That's nuts. So I guess maybe Gunther faces the winner of Kofi and Ray. And then Dragonov faces Jey Uso. Oh, shit. Jey Uso's still in this. Man, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We might get Jey Uso against Dragonov next week. Is that what's happening? Oh, my God. This tournament is producing some great matches, at least for the men. The women, however, I think are off to a little bit of a slower start. Io Sky and Natalya was good, but it wasn't Ricochet and Dragonov good. And Zoe Stark and Ivy Nile was pretty good too. These two little pit bulls beating the crap out of each other was fun to watch. Zoe won with the Z360. And, we'll see on the Raw side of things, when you look at the women involved here, although you do have Lyra, but I feel like it's just Io's bracket to win, right after dropping the title. She had a good run there as world champion. And this would feel like a nice bounce back accolade for her. I don't know if there's really a reason to give it to Lyra right away. She just got in. She hasn't even gotten rolling yet on the main roster. So it's not a situation where you can say, oh, she needs it more or something. She doesn't need this shit right now. Let her get started, get rolling before you just slap, a big victory on her that's going to put her right into the title picture. That's kind of what happened to Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I would just, maybe not go that fast. That's all. But Zoe got the win over Ivy Nile. We cut backstage. We got Truth and The Miz back there. They're hanging out. I think Adam Pearce is there. And R-Truth has brought the coach of the Yukon Huskies basketball team. And he says that he wants Miz and himself to defend the titles against Yukon. But then The Miz has to explain to him that Yukon is a college and it's a basketball team. And R-Truth just kind of thinks it's all the same. And he somehow thinks that him and The Miz can defend their tag team titles against Yukon. I like R-Truth. He's hilarious. Some of this shit's starting to get old. I think Miz and R-Truth need to drop the pizza belts and get on with their lives because I'm kind of getting over it. It's just getting too ridiculous now. R-Truth, I liked it when he was, well, nothing that he did was, I guess, that normal with his misunderstandings. They weren't subtle, but I want to go back to where they were a little bit more subtle than they are now. Now he'll look at Adam Pearce and he'll go, "What's up, Omos?" Like he's just completely out of his mind now. I liked it where he would just get things confused from time to time. Now the confusions that he's making are a little bit stupid, and now I'm starting to get over it. That's all. And he had a couple of social media likes a few weeks ago that weren't too pleasing to read. So I'm not as much on the Truth bandwagon as I used to be, but he's still impossible to hate. He's hilarious. Then we're backstage again with Judgment Day. Priest is consoling Finn Balor. So 1 minute, Judgment Day can't get along. They're infighting. They're barking at each other and bickering. The next minute, it's all love and it's all support. Balor, of course, lost earlier on to Jey Uso in the King of the Ring first rounder. And Priest is saying, hey, man, it's all good. So you win some, you lose some. And Balor's like, thanks, man. And he then says something to JD. JD looks so fun when he's sitting there. He really does have either a huge head or a small body. His proportions are off. And he looks so hilarious sitting there. I'm like, he just looks hilarious to me. And I like that he's a good sport about it because they constantly bring up his 33-pound head. Oh, my God. So JD, I guess, is told or instructed by Priest to deal with Braun Strowman, who we did get a glimpse of earlier. He came and said hi to Ricochet, but I was in and out of the room, and so I don't know if I caught all the context here. But I guess he says he wants JD to deal with Strowman. So I think JD McDonough is going to be the first person fed to Strowman when we see him, back in the ring in a match, I suppose. And then Dom shows up with his new BFF, Carlito. Priest is not happy because it was 1 year ago to the day at Backlash in San Juan where Carlito made his return with that enormous pop and cost Priest or contributed to the match, to Bad Bunny's victory anyway. And Priest hasn't forgotten that. So he said, you're not going to find any friends here. And then Carlito was like, well, don't be so quick to judge. I could be of use to you. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, something like that. And then they scamper off. So I don't know if they're kind of setting up here Dominic finding a new crew when Judgment Day implodes. I mean, Rhea Ripley's going to be coming back to a completely different looking scene here, depending on how long they drag all of this out. But right now, Judgment Day feels united. Priest has shown support for his troops. He's even gone as far as apologizing. So this might buy them some time if they're trying to delay, Judgment Day imploding until maybe Ripley comes back or whatever they're doing here. Sounds like, at least for now, Judgment Day is a little bit tighter of a unit than they were a week ago. After that, we get Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed. This, of course, issue is carrying over from last week, when Gable and Reed are both targeting the Intercontinental Championship. Now, Gable and Reed have both interrupted in singles matches against Sami Zayn in the last couple of weeks and screwed up some title defenses here. And they get about 3 or 4 minutes into the match, right after what I guess can only be described as when I went and watched this back, it looked like a top rope Spanish fly attempt. Think about who's in this match. Bronson Reed. And it was a from the top rope Spanish fly attempt from Gable to Reed. And they hit it similar to how Bam Bam Bigelow used to hit his moonsaults. He didn't have a perfect, Tiffany Stratton or even Vader-like moonsault. He kind of went off to the side a little bit. Terry Funk did the same thing. Terry Funk and Bam Bam had identical moonsaults. Watch them. They're the same. So they kind of fell that way. So they didn't execute it to perfection, but I swear that was an attempted Spanish fly on a 400-pound Bronson Reed. If I would have seen that at age 10, it would have blown my fucking mind. So right after that hard landing that the both guys took there, Sami Zayn comes in the ring, attacks Gable first, and starts attacking both guys until Reed turns the tables and beats the crap out of both of them. So Reed winds up taking down Sami and Chad Gable. He is confronted at Gorilla when he's leaving by Adam Pearce, and Bronson says something like, "You know what you have to do," or whatever. So I think it's going to be a triple threat. Do they have a name for this? I guess it's the King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. Sami Zayn would later on in an interview with Jackie Redmond backstage propose that triple threat in Saudi Arabia, and that was basically what we thought we would see between these three guys. And this is another good match to do because it allows Sami to retain the title. I do not think Sami is going to drop it in the triple threat. I think this thing might carry into, I'd like to see it carry into like SummerSlam and do Gable and Sami at SummerSlam and have Gable beat him. But it might be hard to stretch it that far. You got Clash at the Castle, you got Money in the Bank, you got a lot of other shit going on. Plus, we see title matches routinely on Monday Night Raw now, so I don't know if you could make it all the way to SummerSlam to pay that off. But if you could, book Gable and Zayn at SummerSlam and have Gable beat him, I would be perfectly fine with that. After that, we had Dakota Kai, who is filling in for Asuka, taking on Lyra Valkyria. Am I saying that right? I still don't know how to say it. I just can't say things. So Lyra, of course, beats Dakota and advances. I don't think Lyra should win the tournament, but I'm glad that she got a win here because I would not be beating her on her first night. She's not carrying Cross. So getting the win here over Dakota seemed about right, and now you don't have to worry about having any sort of damage control in fighting, at least right now. And then we were left with our main event, and I got to look at the time. It was about 20 minutes till the top of the hour when Sheamus and Gunther were making their entrances. So I'm like, sweet, we're going to get at least 20 minutes. And Raw, I think, went about a minute over because my clock was past 8:01. It was like 8:01, 11:01 on the East Coast, and the match was still going on. So as soon as the match was over, like they cut right to the next show, like instantly, not much of a fade out or anything like that or a transition. They just went right in to the next show that I think picked up like in progress. So they went a little bit over, it felt like here, but the match was great. I wasn't sure about this one because on paper, when they announced it on Saturday, we're like, sweet, Gunther and Sheamus. Because when we think Gunther and Sheamus, we think Clash at the Castle. We think of the wars they had back in 2022 that spilled into 2023 at WrestleMania 39 in that triple threat. But Sheamus has been out of the ring for a year. He just came back a couple of weeks ago, and he was not as small in the middle as he used to be, and a lot of people were pointing that out. Sheamus himself was having a lot of fun with that. He's a great sport. And it was good tonight to see him back in his old gear. Like when he came back, he kind of was wearing the longer trunks sort of, and now he kind of had his original shit on. And whatever worries I had if this match could live up to what we would come to expect from Gunther and Sheamus, they evaporated quickly. If you compare this match to their Clash match or any other matches that they've had, you know, you wouldn't necessarily maybe rank it higher or anything, but it definitely lived up to what we expect from these two dudes when they get in there. We expect to see Sheamus's pasty-ass body covered in red welts. We expect to see Gunther worn out. We expect to see hard, high impact, crazy smashes to the chest and the face and the back and the power bombs and the forearm smashes and all of that crap. We got it all. Now, in the end, I wasn't expecting Sheamus to win here. You know, Gunther has been my pick to win the tournament from the minute he declared for it. So he's only in the first round here. I'm expecting him to go all the way, tear through everybody and dominate in this thing. And Sheamus, I'm glad that they had Sheamus put up the fight that he did. It was the story of this rivalry the last time. Sheamus could hold his own. He could take Gunther to the absolute limit, brink of defeat, and Gunther always got the better of him. And it was the same thing here. I mean, Sheamus survived. You know, Gunther went through his thing and hit that powerbomb finisher sequence onto Sheamus. When my clock said 1 minute to the top of the hour when he hit that powerbomb, I'm starting to write down Sheamus wins in my notes, Gunther wins in my notes, and Sheamus kicks out. I'm like, oh, snap. How's Gunther gonna, you know, wind up still winning this when it's now the show is supposed to be over? So Sheamus kind of kicking out there in the end and still getting some offense in before Gunther was able to reapply, I think, that half crab that he was using and utilizing a couple of times throughout the match. Sheamus tried, he couldn't hang on any longer, finally tapped out, and Gunther got the hard fought win over Sheamus here in a match that I was pleasantly surprised with. Again, I wasn't thinking this match was going to suck. It's just Sheamus physically, I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to do what they have done in the past. But Sheamus eased my worries right away. This match was everything we come to expect from these guys and more. And Gunther getting the win here made me happy because he's my pick. And Sheamus had a good showing for himself here. I don't know if they're going to try to pick back up what he was doing with McIntyre. I don't know where Sheamus goes from here. You know, they were planting the seeds of some stuff with him and Drew, and maybe that's what they wind up doing at Clash at the Castle. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's Sheamus and McIntyre at the Clash, but I think it would be better if McIntyre won the championship at Clash at the Castle instead. But Gunther advances, and like I said, I expect him now to go all the way. He's either going to be facing Dragonov or the winner of Rey Mysterio and Kofi Kingston. I feel like he's going to face the winner of Rey and Kofi. I think regardless of who wins that, it'll be a fun match to watch Gunther win, whether he beats Kofi or Rey. So it doesn't matter there. And then, you know, Jey Uso and Dragonov is going to be one of the more interesting matches because that's got to be a first-timer, right? I don't think these guys have ever crossed paths in any way, in the ring anyway, in WWE. So that's the match we're getting next week. And that should be it, too. It should be Dragonov and Jey next week, along with Gunther versus the winner of Rey and Kofi. We should get that next week, and then the week after that, we'll get the semis, right? So either way, regardless of how they do it, we're set up for some pretty awesome matches here. And that's going to be fun. Oh, yeah, that's right. Did I not talk about Becky Lynch? Oh, I haven't gotten there yet. Oh, yeah, I skipped over Becky. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. I skipped over Becky's segment. So Becky Lynch had an interview, too. It was an in-ring interview, sit-down thing with Michael Cole. And what I like about Becky is that she really seems to enjoy giving the rub, you know, to the younger talent. She really seems to like talking about people, mentioning how much she respects them and how good she thinks they are, that type of thing. Just any little type of push and nudge and rub she can give to them seems to be really important to her. So she was doing a lot of that here in the interview, talked about Lyra, talked about a lot of other women on the roster who she respects. And that's when Liv Morgan came out. So Liv Morgan showed up. And she was mad because Becky was naming all of those names but didn't mention her. So Becky wound up saying, look, you want a shot at the title? You've got it. You've got your shot in 3 weeks at the King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia. And that's when Damage Control came out. Damage Control came out, and I thought this was weird. They came out, and Becky and Liv kind of got back to back, like to fight them together. And I'm like, what? Why would they be fighting together? Liv is an asshole right now. They're not going to align her in a babyface scenario when they're trying so hard to get her over as a heel. This makes no sense. So I thought Liv was going to attack Becky, but instead she scurried away from the ring when she saw her opportunity and left Becky in there to get beat down by Damage Control until Lyra Valkyria made the save there for Becky, who they had some battles in NXT, and Becky earned a lot of respect for her. So they kind of stood together, and that went into the Lyra and Dakota match right after that Lyra won and advanced in. So sorry for not mentioning the Becky Lynch interview earlier on. My bad. Just refreshing my chat here, and I think I got to get up out of here. Oh, yeah, I do. Oh, my God. I did not even realize how low our audience is. Oh, shit. Yikes. Anyway, I love you guys. You guys are always here hanging out, but that is going to be it for me. Let me read this comment from the Swerve Show. If Dom wasn't injured, he should win King of the Ring. Then he could be really named Rey Mysterio, since Rey means king in Spanish. Oh, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, it's a shame Dom is injured. I hope that injury, he did say and announce on social media that he does not need surgery. So hopefully his recovery time isn't too long and we get Dom back quick. You know what I mean? All right. Well, that is going to do it for me this evening. I want to thank you guys for being here. I am now going to have some dinner with Elizabeth, and I'm going to start watching the show Shameless tonight. I've never seen it. We're going to start watching it. Elizabeth's seen it, and we're going to start kicking that off because I need a new show. And you guys know how I felt about Breaking Bad. I think I'm going to like this one a lot better. So I will keep you updated on how I'm liking Shameless, as we go through the show here. You guys have a great rest of your Monday night. You will probably hear from me this week. If we get any other news dropping or anything important or significant, I'll pop in here with a quick video and let you know how I feel about it. Otherwise, we do have plans for the podcast this weekend as usual, and I will post a link to our watch along on Sunday once I figure out what that's going to be. And by the way, if you are going to join us on Sunday for the watch along, there is a chance I'm going to postpone it 30 minutes later. That might make you have to stay up a little later than normal if you're on the East Coast, but I got a very busy day. So keep that in mind. I might have to do that. I might not, but I might schedule it for 30 minutes later than normal, just so you know. Thanks again, guys, for being here. Thanks for hanging out.